I am now. Oh, you guys got to clear. I forget about that. That's fairly new to Zoom. You guys got it cleared so you can see the next Kahoot question. Shanika climbed up to the top. Is it Alark, Carlene, Kathleen, and final? 4 of you are on fire. You have an answer streak of 3 in a row. Question number 5, under license law, a provisional broker is authorized to ten seconds. Under license law, provisional brokers authorized to list a property for sale as long as they're under the supervision of a broker in charge. I can never sign anything on behalf of a client. I don't have that authority. I'm just a special agent. Remember, if you're in sales, you're just a special agent. I can't bind. I don't have authority to sign on anyone's behalf. Questions on this one? Shanika stayed on top. Alark, Carlene, and Kathleen. Y'all try to say that. And then Little Devil. Final is our highest, is on fire with the highest answer streak of 4. How long from receipt does a provisional broker have to deliver trust funds to their broker in charge? Ten seconds. How long from receipt does a PB have? Provisional brokers can't walk around with somebody else's money. So if you're in the throes of negotiation and your buyer says, here's my earnest money check, will you hang on to this for me? You need to get it to your broker in charge. The 3 days of receipt or 3 days of contract formation is how long the escrow agent has to get it in the bank. And I'm so glad nobody said the green one. Does that seem a little out there? Just put it in your own savings account. It'll be fine. Thank you guys for not saying that. So the 3 days of receipt or 3 days of contract formation is when the escrow agent has to deliver, I'm sorry, to deposit into their account. PBs cannot walk around with somebody else's money. Questions on this one? I think, yeah, that was the last one. So here's our big reveal, our podium. Shanika in 3rd place. Good job. 2nd place winner is Little Devil. You got to tell me who you are in private chat. And our 1st place winner is Alark. You got to tell me who you are in a private chat. 4th, oh no, wait. Gracie and Carlene are our 4th and 5th runners up. Somebody asked if you can Kahoot and access the Kahoots we've done in class. I think if you get the app, you can go back and get them. But remember, we've recorded. So you can always go back to the recordings and play again if you want to, except for today that I missed the first 3 questions. Ah, clever, Alark. Okay. Little Devil, good. Questions? I just stopped sharing if you're wondering what happened. So we're going to talk about agent safety. And before we talk about agent safety, I have a little video that I want you guys to watch. And it's been my experience when I try to show a video on Zoom, we have different connection speeds, and some of you get a lag and you can't see it and it doesn't work and da 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 da. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. This is a 3-minute video. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. We're going to take a 5-minute break and let you guys watch the video. Is that fair? 5 minutes to watch a 3-minute video? Everybody good with that? Please watch the video. Don't just go, woohoo, I get 5 extra minutes. Please watch the video. And then we're going to take 5 minutes, and we come back. We're going to talk about agent safety. But I like this video. This is from the National. Yes, you still get your 10-minute break. I'm only you guys to watch the video. Man, am I mean. So take 5 minutes, watch the video, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. as you're finishing up, you come on back. We're going to talk about it. There's some important points of this video I want to make sure you guys see. If for some reason you couldn't get it, just let me know. I will get it to you. Were you guys able to see it? I'm trying to get some kind of feedback here. Looks like most of you. Okay. Let's wait for people to get back. Guys, when it comes to, I'll email it to you. When it comes to agent safety, I don't want to scare anybody, but I need you guys to be aware, because the truth is you're going into a potentially dangerous field. You guys are meeting perfect strangers. We know that the public can be a little crazy sometimes, and you guys have always got to put your safety first. Your safety goes ahead of any commission. Okay, there's no commission amount worth your safety. And if you don't believe me, just ask your family tonight after class. And I'm sure they'll agree that there's no commission worth your safety. So camera's back on. If you turned it off in the video, make sure it's back on. And let's talk about some of the points of the video and probably some other points too. When it comes to safety, the number one question I get is, can I have a gun? If you have a concealed carry, you're welcome to carry a gun for showings, open houses. I have my concealed carry. When I'm showing property, I am carrying. When I'm doing open houses, I am carrying. There's a difference. Some people are comfortable with guns, some people aren't. If you're one of those people that are not comfortable with a gun, then please don't get a gun. You don't put yourself or others at risk because you don't know what you're doing. There's other forms of protection that you can have. In addition to my concealed carry, I also have mace. I have in the right bag a flashlight that'll also serve as a taser. So there are other forms of protection out there. For Christmas this year, we got one of those birdies. Have you guys seen this yet? It's got like a pin stuffed in it. When you pull the pin out, it's this loud chirp. So there's other things you can do. If gun you're not comfortable with, please don't get one, but you want some form of protection. You want something. And remember, you guys, in desperate times, anything can be used as a weapon. So make sure if you don't have it with you, you know where to access. I think every single one of you on this call should take a self-defense class. You can find self-defense classes at like karate dojos. I live down here in Archdale, and we have Creekside Park, like the best park ever. And every once in a while, they offer self-defense classes. So I think that's a good opportunity. You need to know how to get away if you're ever in that situation. So I think all of you should take some sort of self-defense class and have some form of protection on you. Questions or comments about that first bullet point? I'm going to talk about the rest in a minute. Anything specifically about that first bullet point? Do I have to have permission from my firm saying I can carry? Not that I'm aware of. If the firm has a policy, that would be their policy, but no firm I've ever worked with told me I can't. They're not the ones in the field with me, are they? They're not the ones in the property. They're not the ones with buyers. So if you're asking me my opinion, and my opinion only, that comes down to me being an independent contractor and a human, and take care of myself. Other questions about the first bullet point? Thoughts on the first bullet point? My objective is to get away. So when I'm doing an open house, yeah, my gun's available, but in my pocket is mace. So if I have to get away, you guys need to know who you're dealing with. When you're meeting buyers, when you're meeting sellers, you need to get their information. Some agents have their own personal policy that before they meet a buyer or seller, they're going to have that individual text them a picture of their driver's license. If you're meeting a buyer at a home, some agents have a policy where you text me the make, model of your car. It's important that we know who we're dealing with. And guys, remember what fair housing says. What you do for one, you have to do for all. So if you ask one buyer to send you a copy of their driver's license, do you have to ask all buyers if that's your policy? Absolutely. You can't select what buyers you want to do this, what buyers you want to follow your protocol. Do you see how a discrimination matter could come up pretty quickly with that? Well, I look different than other buyers, and she asked them for driver's license, but she didn't ask me for one. So let your firm help you and have some kind of personal policy in place and make that policy stick for all of your clients. When you're out showing property, you need to tell someone where you're at. If you're going to be out showing 13 homes today, somebody needs your itinerary. Somebody needs to know the first showing is from 9 to 9:30 at this address. The next one's at 10 at this address. You guys with me? Somebody needs to know your itinerary for the day. I hate to say this, but if you go missing, they need to know where you last left off. They can find you faster if they know where you last left off. Tell someone in your office, tell a friend, tell a significant other. Question came in, what if you personally know the buyer? If this is your BFF, then I'm sure you already know who you are dealing with. When you're showing property, when you're doing open houses, when you're with sellers, you want to keep your phone handy. Guys, most homes are accessible via an e-box. In order for me to access the e-box, I have to have an app on my phone. So it's not like when I'm showing property, me having my phone out is weird. Now, I'm not on my phone when I'm showing property, right? But I have to have my phone out anyway to get into the property. So if you have your phone close, if you need to call for help, you have it available, ready for you. Let's talk about open houses. These are kind of twofold. First off, for the seller's perspective of an open house, you, especially if you have an open house, a busy open house, you may not be able to follow everybody around the whole time. You may not want to. You may choose to keep your position at the front door and just be a greeter. The seller needs to know that you're not going to be able to have your eyes on everybody at all times. So the seller needs to make sure they're putting up valuable things, anything that can easily slip into a pocket and walk away. Jewelry is an easy one. Prescription medication, small weapons. Make sure they have that stuff locked up. Remember, we've asked our sellers to declutter before we listed the house anyway. So this is nothing against what we've been saying. Now, as the agent doing the open house, it's really funny to say this, but it's almost like when we do open houses, it's almost like we're sitting ducks, aren't we? Because I tell the whole world, I'm in this big empty house all by myself this Sunday from 2 to 4. Come see me. So you need to make sure you want to advertise and promote your open house, absolutely. But you need to make sure that you have safety measures in place when you're doing your open house. You can ask, as the video indicated, you can ask somebody to come with you. They don't have to be a licensed broker to do an open house with you. Hear me. They can't answer questions. They're not there to sell the house. They're there to be your company. So if you're taking an unlicensed person to sit with you during the open house, you need to make sure that they understand their role. Who's selling the house and what their role is. Everybody good with that piece of it? Some agents go door to door and introduce themselves to the neighbors before the open house. Some invite the neighbors to the open house. There are nosy neighbors out there. So invite them to the open house, introduce yourself. At least you know you would have somewhere to go if you need to. As I just mentioned, when I do an open house, I stay positioned at the front door. I don't try to follow groups of buyers around the house. I keep my position at the front door. I see you coming down the street long before you ever get there. So I see who's coming and going. I'm aware. And the front door is the only door I have unlocked. So the only way you can get in is through the front door. Before you open the front door, before you start your open house, walk through the house with your phone and see if you have any dead spots. Because if the buyer's down in the basement and they say, hey, can you come down here for a minute? You need not jump at that, because if your phone doesn't work in the basement, you don't want, you guys with me? You don't want to fall for that. So see if you have any dead spots. See if there's any places in the home that your phone doesn't work. Comments on anything so far? Your firm will probably have some kind of safety policy, some kind of distress code. So that'll be part of your new agent orientation with your firm, is learning that safety policy and that distress code. You guys are also going to be asked when you join your firms to write a profile. Don't make your personal marketing, don't make your profile too personal. Writing a profile is tricky. You're trying to get people to engage with you on a website. So you want enough information in there that you can make a connection, but you don't want too much that you're giving away too personal information. I think it's okay to tell people you have kids, but don't tell them what school they go to. You guys see what I'm saying? Other people with kids might connect with you, but don't be too specifics. Never, ever, ever give your home address out. That's why you have a firm. Use your firm's address. But write your profile in a way, again, that makes them connect with you. For example, I graduated from UNCG. How many of you just went, oh, I'm a Spartan too? That's how you get that connection. That's how you get that. So it's okay to talk about yourself. Dress for safety, ladies. I mean, gentlemen, this applies to you as well, but ladies, be really careful about wearing those stilettos out showing property. Are you going to be able to run away in those stilettos? Better yet, are you going to be able to walk somebody's backyard in those stilettos? I'm sure the seller would appreciate you aerating their backyard, but if it's wet back there, you're going to get stuck in the yard. So I suggest being cautious about your footwear, being cautious about your dress. Another thing the video indicated, don't allow yourself to be blocked in. So again, a couple pieces of this. If at all possible, I want you guys to park on the street. If at all possible, park on the street. If street parking is not an option and you have to park in the driveway, at least maybe try to pull in after your buyers. Because if you're parked in the driveway and then they park behind you, you're kind of stuck. The second piece of this is when you're showing property, y'all don't need to be walking into a room first. Remember, you guys, you're trying to sell this home. And when you walk in and you say, here's the bedroom, it's really hard for the buyers to imagine themselves living here when you're standing in the middle of the room. So give them the experience of walking through first. But what it also does is protect you. If that bedroom happens to be on a second floor and the only way out is the second story window and you walk in first, you're blocked. So allow them to go first, one, for your safety, but two, to give them the experience of seeing the home without you standing in the middle of the room. Does that make sense to you guys? Remember, they were trying to envision themselves living there. So you let them lead. I wouldn't go up or down stairs in front of them. Always follow behind them. Questions on anything here? I think these last two are the most important things that we can say. Always be aware of your surroundings. When you get out of the car, look around. After the showing, when you leave the house, look around. Be aware of what's going on around you. Guys, remember, the buyer is looking as a way of, do I see myself living in this neighborhood? Can I picture myself living in this home? We need to be looking for everything else. So while they're trying to get the experience, the curb appeal, when we pull up, you need to be aware of your surroundings. And the absolute best advice I can give you guys is to listen to that little voice in your head. And if that little voice in your head says, get out, you know what you should do? Get out. Because that little voice in your head usually knows better. The other thing that the video mentioned was meeting buyers somewhere other than the vacant home. The very first time you meet somebody, please don't meet them in a vacant home by yourself. Have them come to the office or meet them at a Starbucks. You can take them out to a Starbucks and sit down for a coffee and talk about things they can expect. What's one of the very early things that I need to do when I meet a buyer anyway? What's something I need to do very early in that relationship? Yep. Early on, we should be doing our agency disclosure, right? So what a great opportunity to insist that they come into the office. What a great opportunity to meet them at a Starbucks first. You guys with me? Use that as your excuse. I'm required to discuss agency with disclosure with you. So let's go grab a coffee and then we'll go look at this property. Guys, this is what's going to happen. You're going to join your firm. You're going to be sitting on phone duty one day and you're going to get a call. And somebody's going to say, I'm really interested in that listing you guys have on 123 Main Street. And your instinct is to jump up, run out the door and go show them 123 Main Street. But I need you guys to refrain from that. You've got to keep your safety in mind. If you want to let them know you have a gun, put a little bit of fear in them. What questions or comments do we have on safety? Is this something you guys have thought about before? Don't be a soft target. I would agree. Have a policy. You guys always got to be prepared. I could tell you guys stories. Fortunately for me, I've never known anybody be attacked, but I've got stories after stories where people, that little voice said, get out. And after the fact, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so silly. If that voice tells you something ain't right, then guess what? Something ain't right. You can't feel silly after the fact. I'd rather you guys feel silly than not feel anything at all. National Association of Realtors has designated September as Realtor Safety Month. The reason being for that is because I think about 10 years ago, there was an agent in Arizona that was attacked and murdered showing a property. So in memory of her, the National Association of Realtors, every September, they do a big push for agent safety. The latest brutal case that I heard about was a male agent in Virginia last year. So gentlemen, please don't think you're immune to this discussion. So you guys, that's a good point. Life 360, that's on your phone where like your family members can, I mean, I hate to say track you, but if you're showing property, what a great opportunity for them to know where they are. Security cameras before the open house. Most homeowners today have some kind of security camera, don't they? So that would be one advantage you have. At least you have the Ring doorbell. You can kind of see who's coming in and coming out. If you want to put your own in, then yeah, you would just need to get the homeowner's permission. If you want to put a little camera in the corner, you just have to get the homeowner's permission. And guys, remember, I can record video, but I can't record audio. So make sure, even if you're setting something up for your safety in your open house, you don't have audio. No other questions or comments?
Julie, in regards to what you just said about recording video but not audio, if you were to make your customer or client aware, can you possibly get permission to do audio?
You have to have permission to do audio. That's right.
So
you have to have permission to record audio.
So if that was your policy along with your agency disclosure, something where they would sign in upfront.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I would get with your firm to discuss that with them. They may or may not have policies in place as well. I've shown houses before, evenings, you know, this time of day where it's dusk out. If I don't know the buyer, if I've never met the buyer, bring somebody with me. There's been times that I brought my husband along. He sits in the car and doesn't do any, well, it's not true. He puts a seat back and takes a nap, but he's there and they see him there. I think that's important too. If you're not alone, that they see that. Somebody said about you are being recorded. Sign up during your open house. You may want to look into this. My understanding, you have to have permission, not just give notice. You have to have permission. That's my understanding. So you may just want to look into that if that's the option you're going. Again, you guys, your firms have a policy on safety, should. You as an individual agent should as well. So I think that's something you want to create early in your career. And like I said, what you do for one, you do for all. I remember one time I was with buyers and I'd been with them a couple of times. They're a great couple and we met, we've been together quite a bit. And they lived in Raleigh. So they were coming up like on Sunday mornings for us to look at homes. Sunday morning was our time. And we pulled up to a house. I met them at a house. And when we got there, there was a car in the driveway and the house was vacant. I knew that from the showing instructions. We saw the car in the driveway. We parked on the street. And I said, let's just hold back for a second. I thought it was another buyer. I thought it was another buyer viewing the property. I said, let's hold back for a second. So we were out in the street, you know, chit chat and how was your week, you know, da 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 da. And the couple came out of the house and he said, can you show me this house? And I said, well, you know, maybe, but not now. I can't because I'm showing my buyers this house. I said, so either I can give you my card or you can call the name and number on the yard sign. I can't believe you won't show me this house. Would I have been a good buyer's agent? First off, put safety aside. Would I have been a good buyer's agent if I would allowed somebody else to view the house with the house I was showing my buyers? You think my buyers would have liked that? Probably not. Second off, I'm not letting him in because I don't know him. I know nothing about him. He finally kind of stormed off. He wasn't real happy with me. I mean, oh well, you know. You got to think, got to take things in consideration. I have no idea. Maybe this person was legitimately interested. If he was, he would have called me or he would have called the name on the sign. That's the thing. Sometimes we think we're chasing after leads. If they're really interested, you shouldn't have to chase them that far. If they're really interested, they're going to do your safety compliance. If they're really interested, they're going to do what you ask them to do. We went in the house and locked the front door. I kind of kept half an eye on him. I wanted to know where he was. He left before we did. This was 8 o'clock in the morning. Don't let daylight give you a false sense of security. Okay, things happen in daylight too. No other questions or comments? Okay. We're going to take our 10-minute break. You guys, please just take 10 minutes. Let's watch our time, because when we come back, we need to do our rules and expectations for the exam. So I need everybody present to do the rules and expectations for tomorrow night. So let's take 10. All right. Are we back? Okay. So I'm going to take attendance right now. So I know who's here. I need you guys, I need your attention for this because knowing the rules and expectations for tomorrow is very important. This is one of these discussions. I think we can get through it and then I'll open it up for any questions because I very well may answer your questions as we get into it. So tomorrow you have a test. First off, I need everybody to relax just a little bit. You guys feel this guy's pain right now? It's tricky. If anybody ever told you this test was easy, if anybody ever told you getting your license was easy, I think they lied to you. So I hope you guys have been preparing, have been ready, knowing that tomorrow's ready, the big day. So let's talk about what tomorrow is going to look like. Before we can begin the exam, I need to have a little one-on-one time with each of you. And we need to do a check-in process. And I'll explain the check-in process in just a second. But tomorrow I'm going to log in 30 minutes early. So I'll be ready to go tomorrow at 5. Anytime after 5 that you're ready, please come on. Because we need to do a check-in and there's 36 of you and 1 of me, 35 of you and 1 of me. So I need you guys to come on early. I'll be on at 5. I need you guys on early. I can't start once I have everybody signed in. So I need you early so we can start on time. We'll talk about time in just a second. For the check-in, our one-on-one time together, I need to see your basic calculator. Everybody go basic calculator shopping? If not, you got 23 hours to get a basic calculator. I cannot let you use your phone and I cannot let you use a calculator that stores formulas. So if you think you're going to show me a TI-83 tomorrow, you're going to be without a calculator. So I need to see the calculator. You need a writing utensil, pen, pencil, purple crayon, I don't care. Some kind of writing utensil. You can start with 2 blank pieces of scratch paper, 2. And I need to see your 2 pieces of blank scratch paper front and back. I need to see that it's blank and you don't have anything written on it. Why am I so adamant about 2? Because PSI Testing Center lets you start with 2. So I'm trying to prepare you guys for your state exam. If you need more, I will let you get more. We will talk more about that in just a second. Give me a thumbs up that you're good with starting with 2 pieces of blank paper. 2. Thumbs up from everybody, please. Okay. I'll let you have a drink. I'll let you have snacks, cough drops, mints, gum, whatever you need on your side. As part of your check-in, I need to see your textbook and your notebooks are near you and closed. Some of you have shelves behind you. If you can put them behind you where you can see them, I love that. Not all of you have that option, and that's fine. I get that. But I need to see Julie, here's my book. Here are my notebooks, and I'm going to put them right here. Why is that, you ask? Because I allow you guys to take bathroom breaks, and I need to know that your book isn't in the bathroom. I need to know that your notebooks aren't in the bathroom. This is a closed book exam. So I need to know the location of your book. I also need to see your phone, and I need to see that it's off. Can we all agree that silent and off are two different things? Are we all good with that? A couple classes ago, I didn't do this. This is former students. You guys have your peers to thank for this. A couple classes ago, students actually showed me them powering their phones down. I can't do it. Yeah, powering their phones down. They actually showed me turning their phones off. And I got to tell you, I really like that. If you can't show me, then I need you to like hit a button to show me that it doesn't come on when you hit the button. So I need to see each of your space. If you're on a laptop, you can kind of pick your laptop up and show me your blank desk space. If you're on a desktop, I understand you don't have that luxury. So if you're on a desktop, you're pretty much putting your right hand up and saying, Julie, I promise there's nothing on my desk that could be called cheating, that could count for cheating. So if you're on a desktop, I don't know on anybody's phone tomorrow. You cannot take this test on your phone. So laptop, desktop. Any questions specifically about the check-in process? I still got more to talk about. This is the one-on-one time that I get to spend with each of you, checking you in. Your scratch paper stays blank until the exam begins. Once you check in, you're in. Yeah, Diane?
All right, I don't get off work technically till 5:30. I already told him I had to leave early. I said I didn't know about this. I said I need to leave by 5. So I need to leave earlier than that.
We need to start as close to 5:30 as we can. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Other questions about the check-in?
Julie, is everybody starting the test at the same exact time?
Yes, and that's why I
Okay.
can't start until everybody's checked in.
Okay, got you.
Dual monitors is fine. I'm getting ready to talk about what tabs you're allowed to have open in just a second. I need you guys to turn your virtual backgrounds off. I've enjoyed you guys' virtual backgrounds in this class, but for the exam, I need them off because I need to be able to see what's behind you. And I need to be able to see you. So if you're in a dark room, I can't see you. So virtual backgrounds off, no dimly lit spaces. I think as of right now, with the exception of the virtual backgrounds, which is fine for tonight, everybody's lighting is good. I can see you just fine. Tabs. You're going to log on to Zoom like you always do. I'm going to watch you guys. You guys don't need to watch each other. I'll talk about that more in just a second. So when you guys first start, the only thing you should have open is Zoom. Everything else on your computer needs to be shut down. All other browsers, web pages. Again, you guys, this is the honor system. Your exam, let's see, can you use an iPad? Yeah, iPads tend to work. iPads do okay. Your exam is in a program called Class Marker. So when we're ready to begin, once everybody's checked in, I'll put a link to your exam in the Zoom chat. You click on it and it opens Class Marker. Now you have 2 and only 2 tabs open. Again, we'll look in just a second about what you guys can do to minimize your Zoom and not be distracted by others. We'll look at that in just a second. If you're not sure, if you haven't already, you guys know the email you got from Lane that you use to access this class with my Zoom link? Within that email is a tutorial to Class Marker. It's like a 4-minute video. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please do. That'll take away some of your anticipation, anxiety for tomorrow. So watch the Class Marker tutorial. It's in the email you got from Lane. that you click on my Zoom link every single class. You can do that tonight or tomorrow. Please don't do that now. I'm going to have help tomorrow night. Katie Davis is one of our admin here with Carolina School of Real Estate. And she's going to be here helping me watch you guys. So there'll be two of us monitor you. You may never see Katie. You may never know she's here, but know that she's here with me, helping me monitor. Once the exam begins, I am your only friend. Once the exam begins, I am the only person that you can communicate with. And the only way that you can communicate with me is via direct message in Zoom. And we've been sending me direct messages this whole class, so I think we're all okay. If you need to practice now, make sure you know how to send me a direct message. Once you're checked in, if you need to leave your camera for any reason, you need to let me know. Julie, I have to go to the bathroom. Julie, I need to go get some water. Julie, I need more scratch paper. Julie, I have to adjust my thermostat. Once you're checked in, if you leave in front of your camera for any reason, you have got to send me a private chat. You are never, ever to unmute yourself, ever. If you unmute yourself, you've distracted others. I know a lot of you have worked really hard for tomorrow night, and I'm going to do what I can to keep distractions to a minimum, which includes not allowing others to unmute. Hey, Julie, while you're trying to focus, while you're trying to concentrate. Unfortunately, if I need to communicate with you guys, the only option I have is to unmute myself. I'll try to do so gently so I don't startle you. For example, when there's about 15 minutes left, I'll unmute myself and ask you to keep an eye on your time. That's one time I usually unmute myself. But if for any reason I need to communicate with you guys, I have no choice. But you guys can never unmute yourself. You only communicate with me. Nobody else in your house. Don't talk to other people in the room. There should be nobody in the room with you. You should be alone. So what if? I hear all the what ifs and I get it. What if, what if, what if? What if I lose power? What if you lose internet? What if we lose connection? Right before I give you the link for class marker, I'm going to give you my phone number, and I'm going to have you put my phone number on your blank scratch paper. So when you start the exam, the only thing on that blank scratch paper is my phone number. And if we lose connection for any reason, if you lose me, you call me, you text me. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what all may go wrong. But what I do know is we will get through it. So big, deep breaths, call me, and we will get through it. Questions on this? If I see you guys talking to somebody else in the room, I can only assume you're talking about the test and cheating. And guys, I understand a lot of you like to read test questions out loud. I can tell the difference in you reading a test and reading a test question versus you having a conversation with somebody else in the room. You guys with me? Don't give me reason to think that you're cheating. Everybody good with this? I'm your BFF tomorrow night. Sorry. Okay. So when we start, I'll put the link for class marker in the Zoom chat once everybody's checked in, once we got everybody ready to go. Once you click on the link and start the exam, you get 3.5 hours. Passing is 75%. When you're done, you click submit. It says, are you sure? And you say yes, and boom, you know. Be sure you're ready before you click submit. Be sure you are ready. I'll talk more about that in just a second. When you're done, you're done. I will get emailed. You will get emailed. We'll both get your results. So when you're done, you're free to go. Log out of Zoom. Pass or fail. The Real Estate Commission does not allow us to review your exam with you. You and I can discuss any questions you have afterwards, but I can't review the exam. You guys cannot discuss it amongst each other. You guys cannot talk anything about the exam with each other or any other friends you might have in pre-licensing. The only people you can talk to the test about is me and Lane. So you get the class marker link. I put the chat in Zoom. I mean, the class marker link in Zoom. You click on the link and the first thing you're going to see is this disclaimer. This basically says you're not going to use any type of phone recording device. Nothing that could constitute as cheating. This is a closed book exam. You cannot refer to your books or notes while taking this test. You can't receive assistance from anyone taking this test. And the last sentence says, any student in violation will receive a failing grade for the entire course and will report it to the North Carolina Real Estate Commission for further inquiry. The Real Estate Commission tells me if I suspect you of cheating, I'm supposed to take your exam. Again, I say, please don't give me reason to think that you're cheating. I'm not going to deal with it. Lane's not going to deal with it. We're going to let the North Carolina Real Estate Commission deal with it. So once you agree to everything, you hit start, you read this, make sure you read this, please, so you understand. You hit start. You're going to be asked to put in, you see one question per screen. So you have a back and a forward. So question number 1, next. Question number 2, next. You can bookmark a question as you go. So if you read a question and you're not sure of the answer, you can bookmark it to come back to it later. Each page has a link that says see all questions. And when you click on that link, it tells you which ones are answered, which ones are unanswered, and which ones are bookmarked. I want every single one of you to click on see all questions before you hit submit and make sure everything says answered. Again, this is all in the tutorial in your email. You also have a countdown clock. Once you start each page, you'll be able to see a countdown clock so you can keep half an eye on your time. Again, if you haven't watched the little tutorial yet, please do so tonight. I do think that'll alleviate some questions, some stress.
We can cover the clock up, right? If it's distracting.
I mean, it's on the screen. It's pretty small.
Yeah, she said Saturday we could cover it if it was distracting.
Okay. Yeah, Lexi.
I have a question, Julie. I know you said that we can have 2 blank scrap sheets of paper. But when our test begins, like I did it on Learn Test Pass as well. Like I write down stuff like the 4 old ladies doing 35 and a 60. I'll be writing stuff down. Is that okay? Because I don't want you
Absolutely.
to,
Okay, it's got to stay blank until you start your test.
Okay, cool.
Once you start your test, it's your scratch paper, go nuts, do what you want to. But it has to stay blank until we begin. And again, if you need more than 2 pieces, send me a private message. Julie, I need to get another piece of paper. I'll say, great, show me the front and the back. So you go get another piece of paper, you come back, you show me front and back. I say, okay. If you pass, Lane will be in touch with further instructions in your certificate of completion. Your certificate of completion has information you need to finalize your application for your state exam. Be patient. Y'all are testing tomorrow night. You're not going to hear from Lane tomorrow night. You'll hear from Lane Thursday. Friday at the latest, but Lane's pretty on top of this, but I also know Lane's a busy gal. So just be patient. As many times as she has to answer your calls and emails that she's working on it, That's less time she has to do it. So please be patient. When you get that email from Lane with your certificate of completion, hang on to that. You may not be ready to submit your application now, but when you are ready to submit your application, you'll need that certificate of completion. And for some reason, Lane winds up in your spam sometimes. So just keep an eye on your spam, check your spam, and Lane will be in touch with you. If you don't pass and you make at least a 50%, you're eligible for the retake on Monday, March 7th from at 5:30. We'll start at the same time, 5:30 to 9. The rules for the retake are the same. Again, log in early so we can get everybody checked in. Pass or fail, eligible for the retake or not eligible for the retake. Either way, Lane will be in touch with you guys. If you're eligible for the retake, she's going to send you some tips and tricks to help you get ready for the retake. When you pass, she's going to send you some tips and tricks to help you get ready for the state exam. If you make under a 50%, she's going to encourage you to try it again. This is tough. This is a lot of information. So one way or another, Lane will eventually be in touch. Again, please be patient with Lane. She's about the busiest person I know. Lane makes me tired sometimes. Yeah, Clara?
So just to clarify, so I believe you were saying that if you don't make a 50% on this one, she's going to encourage you to try again?
Take the class again, correct?
Oh, take the class again, not take the
I'm
test
sorry,
again, because
yep.
you can't.
Correct.
Okay.
If you make below 50% or you don't pass the retake, get with her. She'll have you, encourage you to sign up for another class. I would do it sooner rather than later while it's still fresher in your brain. Yeah, Nicole?
The exam that we take tomorrow, where's that information pulled? Is that pulled from what we would take on the state exam, or is this something that you created?
The exam you guys are taking tomorrow is from the Real Estate Commission. The Real Estate Commission does write some of your state exam. PSI writes some of it, and the Real Estate Commission writes some of it. But your exam tomorrow comes from the Real Estate Commission. What other questions do I have? Anything about tomorrow night? If y'all think of something tomorrow afternoon, please reach out to me.
I have a question.
Yes.
Oh. I don't know. I guess this might be a dumb question, but
Not at
like
all.
I don't really. I'm like super young and I don't live in a house like most of you guys do. So it's like a kitchen table. I feel like it's standard everyone be on a desk, but like it's like
No,
a
kitchen table's fine, coffee
Okay.
table's fine, TV tray, just as
Okay.
long as you're alone. I just need you to be alone.
Okay.
So if you have roommates, if you have significant others, if you have kids, tell them, leave me alone for this time. Claire, you had a question? No?
Oh. All right.
Danielle.
Hey, Julie, I was wondering, I have a question about the iPad. So can I be logged into my computer and take the test on my iPad? Or do I have to do everything from the same?
If you need to be on 2 devices, one for Zoom, one for your test, I'm okay with that. Yep. Sometimes with an iPad, it may be easier that way. My problem with the phone is it's going to be awfully hard to stare at this thing for 3.5 hours and take a test on it. And phones, sometimes we lose connections. Phones, things happen with the phones. So for simplicity, I think it best that you guys on a laptop or desktop or an iPad. That usually works as well. Yeah, Clara?
Okay, is it a fair assumption that if we are passing the tests in Learn, Test, Pass, then we will also pass the exam tomorrow?
It's off to a good start. Is that what we've been saying since day one? If you can
Yeah.
pass the end of unit quizzes, if you can pass Learn, Test, Pass, then you're positioning yourself, you're being prepared for the test.
Would you say the Learn Test Pass is a little harder than what we'll see tomorrow?
I think learn, test, pass is very equivalent to what you're going to see tomorrow. It's an application exam, which means you can know what the word means, but if you don't know how to apply it, I think your test is probably the most real world scenario that we have in this class. You think you're going to call up a buyer and explain to them, you know, this is what seller sub-agency means. Or are you going to have to be able to explain to that buyer in your own words what seller sub-agency, what dual agency is? You guys see what I'm saying? So your test is the application. It's a very real world scenario. I do your retake on March 7th. So if you're eligible, you use my Zoom link, the same link we've been using to access class. Nothing different there. Yeah, Veronica?
Do you know what percentage of the exam is math?
There's 8 questions, I think.
Thank you.
8 or 10 questions. I don't remember off the top of my head.
This is my last question, I swear. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. This is the time. This is the time.
Are all the questions weighed the same? Like, would you say that the math questions are worth more than like your standard?
No,
just like
every question is 1 point.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
There's 112 questions total. I don't care if you're in a beanbag chair. There's no rules on what platform you're on to take it. Nicole, did I see your hand? Yeah.
These aren't any, the 112 is all the questions for us, not any dummy questions or those questions that they throw in to.
Correct.
Okay.
You only see that on your state exam. The test questions, you only have those on your state exam, and you'll have no idea that they're test questions.
So 112 for us.
Correct.
Okay.
Units 7, 8, 9, and 10 are heavily tested units. Again, pass, fail, eligible for the retake. Lane will be in touch with you guys. Just be patient with her. And it won't be tomorrow night. May I offer you guys some advice for tomorrow night? May I offer you some tips and tricks? Things to maybe help out. The best piece of advice I can give you tomorrow night is to breathe. Y'all have got to remember to breathe. Y'all can't hold your breath for the whole time. Please breathe. It's amazing what a big, deep breath can do to help center you. So if you see a question and you feel yourself getting anxious and you say, oh my God, I've never seen this before in my entire life. Big, deep breath through the nose, exhale through the mouth. You got to remember to breathe, and breathing helps. I'll never forget, I was given a test one time and I kept seeing something move, and I look up and this chick's hair was just flowing in that was her breathing. You know, I was like, wow, she is really breathing. But hey, if it helped her relax. In addition to breathing, I need you to read. Breathe and read, read and breathe. Read every question and every answer. Are we all in agreement that one word can change the meaning of everything? Does one word matter? Yeah. So y'all make sure you're reading every question and every answer. Do not change your answer unless you are like 5,000% sure that it's wrong. Have you done this yet? You changed a right answer to wrong? Have you guys done it? I can't be the only one. Stop it. Every single one of you, stop it right now. Studies have shown time and time and time again that most of the time your first instinct is the right answer. If you don't know for sure, bookmark the question and come back to it. Once you answer it, you should move on from it. Back in the day when we were in person, Lane and I had to grade these things by hand. And I can't tell you how many times we saw you guys change a right answer to wrong. Do y'all know I've known people that have failed this exam because they changed too many answers? So y'all put your right hand up right now and tell me you're not going to do that anymore. It ends tonight. Stop changing answers unless you are a cajillion% sure that it's wrong. Once you've answered it, move on. If you're not sure about it, bookmark it. Again, make sure you answer any skip questions. You can always bookmark it to come back to it. The last thing you're going to do is click on see all questions, and it's going to tell you which ones are answered, unanswered, or bookmarked. So make sure you look at that before you hit submit. Take your time, but watch your time. Again, if you want to cover up the clock, that's fine. You don't have to look at it. I will unmute myself when there's about 15 minutes left. And I will say, I'm sorry for the interruption, but I need you to look at your time. Because when your time runs out, the exam just ends. I have no control over this. When the time runs out, the exam just disappears, and anything that's not answered will be counted wrong. So at least if you throw in C or D or whatever your favorite letter is, you got a 25% chance of getting it right. So take your time, but watch your time. I need you guys to get a good night's sleep tonight. If you have this grand scheme plan to stay up all night studying and study all day tomorrow and study all afternoon, you're going to be tired and you're going to be over it before you get to it. So don't spend all your waking hours studying. Get a good night's sleep tonight. Take a nap if you need to tomorrow. How many of you guys are taking tomorrow off? How many of you guys have tomorrow off? See, this is what concerns me about the night class. Do you think you're going to study all day tomorrow and then show up fresh at 5:30 to take the test? Yeah, I'm not saying don't study tomorrow. I never said that. I'm saying don't spend all your time studying tomorrow. If you do that, by the time you show up for the test, you're over it before it even starts. So give yourself a break. Tomorrow's supposed to be nice. Go for a walk, go for a ride, go get lunch, go do something to give yourself a break and clear your brain, clear your mind. And I want you guys to eat dinner tomorrow night, but don't eat, big smorgasbord. I don't want you to get sleepy. I don't want you listening to your tummy growl either. So get you a decent meal, a light meal that'll get you through the evening. You got to feed the machine. So make sure you get a good meal. Bottom line, we wish you guys the very best tomorrow. I'm still here to help. Anything I can do between now and then, please let me know. What questions do we have? Comments, concerns? Does everybody know how to get in touch with me tomorrow if you have a last minute question? Just in case. Here's my number. Yep, Carlene, you got it. So if you think of something tomorrow, if you think of something in the middle of the night, you can text me. That's fine. My phone's off.
Is
I
it
won't get back to you
333 or
tomorrow morning anyway.
336?
I'm sorry, 336. Thank you. No. All right, you ready? Number 1 is A, number 2 is B, number 3 is C. You ready? 112 questions, 75% to pass. What else? Anything unclear about what to expect tomorrow night? Again, cheating is a major concern with the Real Estate Commission. That's why we take such precautions.
Did you say we could use dual monitors?
You can, but you can only have 2 programs up, Zoom and ClassMarker. What advice can I give that others who have passed mentioned? The people that pass their state exam, we come back and ask them, what did you do? They say, I did every single thing in Learn, Test, Pass, and I studied my butt off. If we fail, will the retake be the same test? No, the retake is a different test. The same weight though. So the retake is going to have a lot from 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? The same weight that we've been putting on, but it will be different questions. So your end of course exam review in Learn Test Pass is your guide for my exam and the retake. So we need to know how many. So what do we know about the T-bar? The total number is 112. You have to get 75%. So X is going to tell us how many you have to get right. So 112, see what I did there? 112 times 75% means you need to get 84 out of 112 to pass. The T-bar is helpful not just for real estate math. You can use it in everyday world too. I use a T-bar to pay my bills every month. This is how much money I got, and this is how much my bills are. What percentage can I put here? What amount can I put there? No kidding. So I pay my bills using the T-bar. When you get it, you get it. What else? Breathe. I think that's so important. I think we mentioned a couple classes ago when we were leaving. I just recently picked up yoga. You know what yoga is all about? Breathing. It's amazing. I love it. I'm breathing. Big, deep breaths. Okay. I'm going to see. No extra credit. So I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second. So when you guys come on tomorrow, this is how you're going to see. Do you guys see everybody, or at least you see the Zoom, right? I'm not going to share my screen tomorrow night. So at the top right, you guys are able to minimize your Zoom. And then when you minimize it, you can kind of push it off to the side. I don't want you guys getting distracted with others. Obviously, you need to make it big again to text or to send me a private chat. But you can tuck Zoom again. Katie and I are watching you guys. You guys don't need to watch everybody. I just want you guys focusing on your test. Katie and I got it covered. That works. Yep. Perfect. What else? The exam. It's hard to believe we're here, isn't it? When we're done as well, you guys, Lane will send you guys a survey. I appreciate your feedback. The school does as well. It's anonymous. So if you're worried about hurting my little feelings, you don't need to be. But I appreciate your feedback. That's how myself and the school grows. So we appreciate your time to do that. Have I ever had to disqualify someone for cheating? Not yet. That makes me happy, even in person. It's either 8 or 10 math questions. I don't remember. It's either 8 or 10 math questions. Like we've been saying all along, the math alone can't fail you. But if you can get some of the math. All right. So I'm done. So hang on. I'm going to hang out for the next, hour and a half or so. If you guys have any questions on materials, if you want to work any math questions, kind of have a free for all, anything, if you want to hear what other people are asking, I'm open up the forum to talk about anything. If you don't want to do that and you want to go study on your own, you're welcome to go. If you want to hang around and ask questions or see what others are asking related to the material, of course, then I'll hang out. But otherwise, y'all go study, get a good night's sleep, and let's do this tomorrow. How's that sound? Let's just do this. We're here, ready or not. Yeah.
Would you say that the success rate is higher in person versus virtual?
For me, it was about the same. It's about to say a lot of instructors noticed a big difference going from in-person to Zoom, but my scores didn't change that much. I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but my pass rate's about 65%. It's a tough test. Yeah, Danielle?
Okay, so I have questions from the national section that was posted online.
Okay.
Are we able to, can I ask you
Yeah,
those questions?
Like,
Okay,
learn, test, pass.
yes, this is a learn, test, pass.
Okay. Hang on just a second. I'm tired, y'all. I've been standing for the last 2 months. So I'm gonna sit down. And I have learn, test, pass, so we can go and look at, if you can point me to where it is, what section is it? Is it the 100% material?
No, it's the very end. Here, let me double check. It's the exam problem topics, March 2020. No, it's not.
Gotcha.
No, it's not. Oh, it's the final exam for students 5/2020. That's the one.
Okay, all right. And what number?
Can we do number 45?
So the monthly interest payment at 6% is $10.50. The principal amount of the loan is, so remember this, I actually like these problems. If you can work the problem forward, then you can work it backward. So how do we solve for monthly interest? We take the balance times the interest rate, and that gives us annual interest. And then you divide by 12 to get monthly interest. T-E-R-E-S-T. So our basic formula here to find, let me put this somewhere, to find monthly interest says you take the balance times the interest rate, get annual interest, divide by 12 to get monthly. So now the problem gives me, let's see, it tells me monthly interest at 6% is $10.50. So what's the opposite of divide? Multiply. So if I know my monthly interest is $1,050, I times by 12 to get annual. So my annual interest is $12,600. And then instead of multiplying by 6%, I would divide. So what I like so much about this formula or this problem, if you can work it forward, then you can work it backward. And knowing the formula of monthly interest makes you think.
I'm not trying to be stingy, but okay. Number 30.
Everybody good if I erase this? Everybody have this? Can I erase this? Same test, Danielle. Number 30. Personal property includes all the following except. I would think the answer is D. Fixtures are meant to stay, personal property is meant to go.
But chattels aren't, I thought those were also personal property.
Right, so we're looking for the,
Except, never mind.
that word, I know we hate these. And guys, let me tell, I know this may not help you, but the Real Estate Commission for your state exam is in the process of doing away with these questions. They may not be completely out yet, but just know that they're in the process. But because they're not out yet, I keep them in. Because with the except, you're looking for the wrong answer. The wrong answer is right because it's wrong. I know. Guys, remember a trick that we talked about on the first day? If you go through, if you just think personal property and you go through and you label, treat each answer independently. So chattels are personal property. Trade fixtures, true or false, are personal property. Emoluments, true or false, are personal property. Fixtures are not. Even if you do it that way, you're looking for the oddball, right? You're looking for the one false out of 3 trues or the 3 falses out of 1 true. So even if you treat each answer independently, you're looking for the oddball.
Very time consuming.
Say it again.
It's very time consuming when you're on a time frame.
I understand.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Earlier when this is like before class started, and I don't have a specific, I took this test, but I don't know exactly which problem it was. But it's one of those problems where you guys were talking about like, the house closes on this date. So the, I think you said debit the seller. Is it going to always be like that, or is it based on the question?
It's based on the question. So let's talk about
Okay.
prorations. Let's talk about prorations. Get my whiteboard up. So when you're prorating, you have a couple different scenarios. So let's break this down. The first scenario, taxes for the year have been paid. And when you're prorating, this is where you guys use your scratch paper. Draw it out so you can see what it is you're prorating. So if I'm prorating annual taxes, my timeline is January 1st to December 30th. And if taxes have been paid, it has to be after September, because the bill doesn't come out until September. So there's no way that taxes have been paid prior to September. So let's pretend that we're going to go to closing on October 28th. The dividing factor of our timeline is the day of closing. Seller owns the property the front part of the year, buyer owns the property the latter part of the year. So if taxes have been paid, that means the seller has paid the taxes for the entire year. Is that fair? Is that fair for the seller to pay for something that they don't live in the property at the end of the year? That's not fair for the seller. So how do we make it fair? The buyer's gonna owe the seller some money. So at settlement, this scenario would shake out as a debit the buyer, credit the seller for the period of time that the buyer owns the property. The buyer's responsible for the day after closing. In North Carolina, when we prorate, the seller's responsible for the day of closing. I always remember that this way. When we woke up this morning, the day of closing, who owned the property? When our alarms went off this morning, who owned the property? The seller. Yep. At some point today, fingers crossed, that deed's going to change hands, right? But when we woke up this morning, the seller owned the property. So the seller gets to pay today's taxes. The seller gets to pay today's HOA dues. If everything goes according to plan today, when we wake up tomorrow, they're no longer the buyer, are they? They are the new owner. So the seller pays for settlement. If the taxes have been paid in this scenario, the buyer owes the seller. So it show up a debit the buyer, credit the seller. And then you whip out your fingers and you count. The buyer's got October 29th and October 30th. So there's 2 days, plus 30 days in November, plus 30 days in December. The buyer would owe the seller, debit the buyer, credit the seller for 62 days. This is if taxes have been paid. We'll look at our other scenarios in just a second. Questions on this: taxes have been paid. The buyer owes the seller.
I have a question, Julie.
Yeah.
So I know that right now we need to pay attention to the taxes have been paid or have not been paid. But I think I saw in a problem where it was giving us the date of closing. So we kind of have to, do we have to assume that because taxes aren't due by a specific date, that maybe they haven't been paid yet?
So the problem, and give me just 1 second. We'll look at that next. So let me answer that in just
Okay.
1 second. I hate it when
Sure.
y'all assume. Do you guys see me cringe every time you
Yeah.
say assume? Ugh. That makes me nervous when y'all assume. So, so is everybody good with this scenario? Taxes have been paid. Can I erase this? Does everybody have it? Let's look at, oh, I'm just missing my chat. I've not even been paying attention. Yeah, you're welcome to go. You're welcome to go. So let's look at, there's 2 scenarios if taxes have not been paid. When is the tax bill due? When is the tax bill due?
New Year's?
Nope.
No?
September?
September. Let's look on page, let's look in our books. Let's look at page 64. For your exam, every month has 30 days. And it's a 360-day year for your exam tomorrow and your state exam. So your taxation timetable, when are taxes for the year due? September 1st. So Veronica, to answer your question, if we're going to closing today, for example, let's go to closing on March 1st. Does the problem have to tell you if taxes have been paid or not?
Not in this case.
Not in
because
this
we know that
case.
they're
You
not
know
due.
they've not been paid, right? Because the bill's not come out. So you're absolutely right. You go to closing today on March 1st and the problem may not tell you if taxes have been paid, but you know they've not because the bill's not come out. So now let me ask you guys, taxes have not been paid, which means somewhere later in the year, the buyer will be responsible for paying the whole year. It's going to come out of their escrow, of course. But if the buyer's responsible for paying taxes for the whole year and they have not been paid, again, let's stop and ask ourselves, who owes whom?
So we're debiting the seller.
There you go.
Seller owes buyer, right?
Seller owes the buyer. And the seller's responsibility is the period of time that they own the property, which is 30 days in January, 30 days in February, and 1 day in March. So in this scenario, the buyer would owe the seller for 61 days. Again, honestly, you guys, for me, it's always been the trickiest thing for me is to figure out what's a debit to whom, what's a credit to whom. And for me to see that, I draw my little picture, I draw my timeline so I can see this is when the seller owned the property, this is when the buyer owns the property. And then I stop and ask myself, who owes whom? The other scenario of taxes have been paid. Is this good? Can I erase this?
Thank you.
The other scenario of taxes have been paid is if closing is after September 1st. If taxes have not been paid after, if closings after September, they have to tell you if they've been paid or not. So the only time they're not going to mention it before September. After September, they're going to do what's called a double debit, in which the attorney collects from the seller their portion of taxes, and then they collect from the buyer their portion of the taxes. So have not been paid after September 1st, double debit. Debit the seller, debit the buyer. I think in this case, it would be easier to look at the buyer. So you got the 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. You got 5 days in November plus 30 days in December. So the buyer's responsibility, 30. There we go. The buyer's responsibility is 35. And then the seller's is the rest of it. I mean, you could count 30 days in January, 30 days in February, 30 days in March, 30 days in April. You could do it that way too. But if you know the buyers and you know the seller owes the rest.
I just want to make sure I heard you right. You said use a 360-day year for the test, not 365.
Correct. Every month has 30 days. And your test will tell you. But I'm telling you, every month has 30 days for a 360-day year.
Julie, are you waiting on someone?
Whoever's ready.
Okay, so now I'm in this packet that we had that we went over for the cram. And I was wondering if you can kind of go over the breach of contract when earnest money deposit is like returned or given back, as well as due diligence.
So sure. And I'm not as familiar with this, but let me make sure I address all your questions, of course. So let's talk about what if we don't get to closing, right? If we get to closing, yay. But what if we don't get to closing? If the buyer terminates for any reason during due diligence, the seller will keep the due diligence fee and the buyer will get their earnest money back. Remember, the buyer's due diligence period is their right to terminate. For what reason? For any reason or no reason at all. The buyer's due diligence is the right to terminate. That's what they're paying the seller for, is the right to terminate. So if the buyer terminates within due diligence, they've exercised their right to terminate. The seller will keep the due diligence. The buyer will get their earnest money back. If the buyer terminates after due diligence, now the seller gets both due diligence and earnest money. The buyer's not considered in breach unless they terminate after due diligence. Terminating during due diligence is their right. If the seller breaches, the buyer can sue the heck out of them. If the seller breaches, they'll have to give back the due diligence and the earnest money, release the earnest money. In addition to that, the seller's responsible for reimbursing the buyer for any costs related to their due diligence period. So has the buyer had the home inspection done? Have they paid for the survey, the appraisal, the pest inspection? Any money that they spent as part of their due diligence, if the seller's not willing to sit down and write a check, the buyer can sue them. Those monies are called consequential damages. If you're suing for consequential damages, basically it's damages, money damages you can prove with receipts or invoices. Can you prove in a court of law that you paid for an appraisal? Can you prove that you paid for a home inspection and a survey, all related to this transaction? So if the seller breaches and they're not willing to sit down and write a check, again, I mean, the laundry list, due diligence fee, earnest money deposit, and anything, any costs related to their due diligence period, the buyer can sue the seller. Consequential damages.
And Julie, specific performance relates to them.
Additionally, to consequential damages, the buyer could also sue the seller for specific performance. In specific performance, the judge can make the seller perform. What are the seller's terms of the contract? To give clear marketable title. So if the buyer sues the seller for specific performance and they win, the judge can make the seller sell. Seller breaches, you're the buyer's agent. Buyer looks at you and say, what should I do? What should I do? What do you think you're going to do? You're going to advise them to talk to somebody. Can I tell a buyer to sue anybody? Can I tell a buyer they're going to win if they sue? If your seller breaches and your buyer looks at you and says, oh my God, what do I do? Have them call their attorney. Did that cover it all, Danielle?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And of course, no more doom and gloom. Let's just get these things to closing. We can't talk about if they terminate. Sometimes they close too. And that's very exciting. But they don't close all the time, unfortunately.
I don't want to be like, oh, go ahead, Veronica.
Go ahead. No, I'm good.
I guess
I'm
this
here
would be
all night, folks.
I know. I just don't want to feel like I'm like the main one asking questions, but I don't know about everybody else, but I still get kind of tripped up on the types of agency. The only one that I feel like I kind of understand a little bit is what is it? Exclusive right to sell. There's one of those where it's like it doesn't matter who finds the buyer, the broker is going to get paid.
So what you're talking about are the list. Let me stop sharing for 1 second.
Listing contracts.
You're talking about the listing contracts. So let's talk about those. And as you indicated, Taylor, the one that we like, the one that we use most often is the exclusive right to sell. But there are a couple other ones that may be available to us. So let's look. Come back and get you guys. So talking about the different types of listing agreements. The open listing, there are multiple agents. The seller hires multiple firms, I should say, not agents. The seller hires multiple firms. The only one that gets paid is the one that brings the buyer. If none of the listing agents bring the buyer, then nobody gets paid. The seller's not promising to pay all the listing firms. They're not promising to pay selling firms. They're just promising to pay the one that brings the buyer. And the seller retains the right to sell it independently on their own. So if the seller goes to work, they list their home in an open listing, they go to work tomorrow and they're in the break room chit-chatting with a coworker. And that coworker says, oh my gosh, I've always loved your neighborhood. I want to buy your house. The seller is going to say they sold their own home and they're not going to pay anybody. The good news is that open listings are not allowed in most MLSs. I know specifically they're not allowed in Triad MLS, but they're not allowed. So it's going to be rare that you see these. And I think we can all agree why. Would you run to jump into one of these where you have a shot, you're competing with others and you may or may not get paid? Yeah, right? Okay, not good, not allowed. We also have an exclusive agency listing. Exclusive means the seller's dating how many firms? The seller's dating one firm. It's an exclusive relationship. How does that firm get paid? If that firm brings the buyer. So exclusive listing, the only way one listing firm, the only way they're going to get paid is if they're the one that brings the buyer, and the seller can still sell it to their coworker in the break room. These are allowed, but in my 20 years, I've never seen one of these. I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm just saying I've never seen one of these. So what's the one we like? The exclusive right to sell. How many firms? One firm. That firm gets paid no matter where the buyer comes from. Does the firm bring the buyer? Does another firm bring the buyer? Does the buyer come unrepresented? Does the seller sell the property to the buyer in the break room? The listing firm gets paid no matter where the buyer comes from. So this chart, and I think this is the Learn, Test, Pass. This might work as a summary. Again, an open listing, only the listing agent that gets the buyer. The listing agent that gets the buyer is the only one that gets paid. Exclusively listing agent or buyer agency. And then exclusive right to sell. Check it out. $, $. We get paid no matter where the buyer comes from.
There has to be a signed contract with all of those, right?
Correct. License law and commission rule says I can't perform a single service for a seller or an owner without first entering into a written agency agreement. So owner and property management or for sale. I cannot do a single thing. We have to get that in writing and signed at the inclusion, at the beginning of the relationship. Veronica, did you have a?
Yeah, I'm gonna find it. I was following what you were doing, so I left my page. It was unit 7, and it was the key points. Here it is. So on page 180, I reread the independent contractor section, but that last section, it says a broker is an employee. And I mean, I know I'm overthinking this, but just because one is capitalized, one employee is capitalized and the other one's lowercase, I didn't know if that meant something.
I think you just found a typo. So what's that saying? If the broker is hired, remember if you're going into sales, you affiliate with a firm. If they hire you as an employee. So I think that was just a typo, a double there. But what it's saying, if you're an employee of the firm, they may pay you salary or hourly. You'll have to punch a clock, be there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They tell you when to take lunch. The difference in employee and independent contractor is employees get a W-2, independent contractor gets a 1099. What's the difference in a W-2 and a 1099? Taxes. And a W-2 taxes are withheld before they pay you. In a 1099, they don't withhold taxes. But never fear, at the end of the year, you're going to owe taxes. So when you have a good year, Uncle Sam's standing there with his hand out going, sweet, we had a good year. So your first year in sales, your first year as an independent contractor, I highly suggest you guys talk to an accountant to make sure you're taking advantages of tax write-offs and to make sure you're setting enough aside from each commission check to be prepared to pay taxes at the end of the year. Because they're due and payable ready, whether you spend all your money that year or not. So your first year as an independent contractor, at least, I suggest talking to an accountant to make sure you're prepared.
And typically, if you're an independent contractor, you don't receive such benefits like it was mentioning at the bottom, like health insurance, profit sharing. That's typically for more of an employee. That's going to be
Employee,
W2?
correct.
Okay.
So as an independent contractor, I mean, it's up to the firm. But again, in all my years, I've never known a firm to offer their agents, their brokers, insurance. So you get to shop on the marketplace. NAR provides Realtor insurance, so you can always shop there. That's who I'm through. But the firm's not going to provide it. 1099 or not 1099, 401k, anything like that. So again, if you talk to an accountant, they might suggest you set up a SEP IRA so you can withhold some money and prepare for retirement, that kind of thing. But it's different forms, different paperwork. And if you're not familiar with being an independent contractor, some of you might be already, and you might already know. But if you're new to the independent contractor world, I would suggest getting with an accountant to get all that. You can write off like mileage and advertising expenses and all sorts of things.
That sounds like a whole different class that will have to be taken.
Yeah, you got to save receipts. Keep track of your mileage. You can get an app on your phone. I don't know about it. I'm still old school. I have a notebook in my car. Whenever I go anywhere, I jot down my mileage. But a lot of agents have an app. I'm just not that fancy.
I realize that I'm still confusing the examples, like when it's a dual agency, basically the agency agreements.
Yeah, Unit 8 was just not a good time, but I feel like you're still on, I feel like you're still on you're on the PowerPoint right now. I feel like that's Unit 8 PowerPoint, but I could be wrong.
This is 8.
That is 8?
It is 8. So we talked about the different listing agreements in 8.
Sorry, I meant like the dual agency, or like when the agent is representing 2 buyers, same firm.
Okay. So let's see. Dual agency. The simplest thing I can say, let me go back to my whiteboard so we don't confuse. The simplest way I know how to define dual the best I can do. Let's learn how to spell it. There we go. Dual agency is one firm, one transaction, two clients. Maybe one or two brokers. That's as simple as I can get dual agency. One firm, one transaction, two clients. Maybe it's one broker working with both. Maybe it's two brokers, one working with the buyer, one working with the seller. So in dual agency, you have informed written consent of both buyer and seller. They need to be aware that if we enter into dual, the broker's role changes. Remember, in dual agency, the broker goes from being the coach to being the referee. So if you're a dual agent, your advocacy goes away. You can't give advice. Is the referee telling the quarterback what play to make next? They really shouldn't be, right? So they're not giving advice. They're not saying, make this play next. They're just there on the field, making sure everybody plays by the rules and gets through the end of the game. One firm represents the seller that's selling 123 Main Street, and the same firm represents the buyer that's buying 123 Main Street. So in dual agency, the firm and all the agents of the firm are straddling the wall. Designated dual agency is a form of dual agency. I think that's so important. I need to make sure everybody heard what I just said. Designated dual agency is a form of dual agency. We can't do designated if we don't first have agreement to dual. And with designated, it's one firm, one transaction, two clients, and always two brokers. You can't have one agent that's designated with both. So we have agreement to dual. Remember, you guys, dual agency doesn't just happen. It's intentionally created with informed written consent. Intentionally created with informed written consent. So we have agreement to dual by both buyer and seller. And if the firm practices designated, we can offer that to them. And in designated agency, one agent is kicked off the wall to work exclusively with the buyer, and a different agent is kicked off the wall to work exclusively with the seller. It's only the two agents that have been designated. Where's the firm? The firm's still straddling the wall, aren't they? The firm and all the other agents are still in dual. One agent is designated to work exclusively with the buyer. A different agent is designated to work exclusively with the seller. The agents can't be designated if they have prior confidential information about the other party. So the broker in charge is going to go to the agent that's been working with the buyer. And they're going to say, hey, do you know anything about my seller that could harm them? Do you know the seller's motive to sell? Do you know how low the seller is willing to go? Purchase price. Buyer's agent says, Broker in charge says, I kick you off the wall. I designate you to work exclusively with my buyer. And then they go to the agent that's been working with the seller and they ask them, do you know anything about my buyer? Once the two agents are designated, they can proceed. They might as well be with two different firms because they've been kicked off the wall. Those two agents' roles change again. They stop being the referee and they go back to being a coach. The firm is still acting like the referee. And the other caveat to designated, the provisional broker and the broker in charge can never be designated opposite of each other. Please note, they can be in dual. They can be in dual. They cannot be designated.
So a non-provisional broker and a BIC could be, okay.
Because as long as they don't have prior confidential information about the other side. So the BIC, for example, may never be able to be designated, right? If they're involved with all their brokers' transactions, the BIC may never be able to be designated. But if the BIC doesn't have prior confidential information, they can be designated opposite of a full broker. If I were a BIC, y'all want my personal opinion on this? This is just Julie's opinion. Y'all don't write this down. This won't be on your test. But seriously, if I were a BIC, I would have a policy that I would never be designated. Just because if my agent, if my broker needs something, I need them to come to me and not be worried about competing with me. You know what I'm saying? So some BICs may have that same policy. They may not. There's no rule that says they do or don't. But that's just me if I were a BIC.
Julie, do you mind doing an example of origination fees and discount points?
Sure.
I don't
Can
know
I
what
erase this?
example.
I can find something real quick. You guys got your book? Can I erase this? Everybody good on this? Dual and designated? We have it. Turn to page 387. And on page 387, let's look at number, God, I'm hesitant after I put you guys through last time when you asked me about equity buildup. Let me just make sure. Let me read it real quick and make sure it's a good problem. If you know, you know. Okay, I'm good with that. On page 387, let's look at number 27. What do you do first when you see a math problem? Just read it. Just read it. A couple is in the process of buying a new home with a $148,400 mortgage loan. The lender is charging a 1% loan origination fee and is lending the money with 2 discount points. The buyers must pay an attorney $400 to handle the closing. How much money will the lender be paid? What's the question asking me? The question's asking me how much the lender is going to get paid. So right out the bat, do I want that $400 going to the attorney? See the distractor? You see what they did there? Tricky, tricky. Focus on what the question's asking you. If you find yourself getting distracted, put lender on your scratch paper and circle it so you know. So you know that's all you care about. Everybody with me? Help rule out distractions. All lender fees are going to be of the loan amount. What does the lender care about? Their money that they're lending, right? The lender cares about the loan amount. They don't care about the purchase price. They care about the loan amount. So in this scenario, I got a mortgage of $148,400. The lender's charging a 1% loan origination fee. That 1% is of the loan amount. So you have your loan amount, 48,400 times 1%. So you have a loan origination fee. And then they're charging 2 discount points. 2 discount points is equal to what percentage of the loan? 2 discount points. You can show me on your fingers, I can see you. 2 discount points is equal to 2% of the loan. However many discount points you have is a percentage of the loan. So again, we have the same loan amount. They're charging 2 discount points. So discount points of $2,968. So how much money will the lender be paid? They're going to get a loan origination fee and discount points. So the lender is going to be paid $4,452. Lender fees that we talked about, loan origination fee, they have to tell you the percentage of that. There is no magic formula. They have to tell you 1% or 3.5%, whatever. That percentage, that loan origination fee is of the loan amount. It's not uncommon to see discount points. Discount points are percentage of the, percentage. So if it's 1 discount point, it's 1% of the loan. If it's 3.5 discount points, then it's 3.5% of the loan. And the other lender fee we may see is interim interest.
That's the one I keep getting stuck on.
Interim interest?
Yeah, I was doing
Okay.
the problem on, I'm sorry, I guess
No.
finish that one. On the 100% exam at the end of learning test pass with the 100 questions, and I'm on question 96.
Is it the full blown, how much does the buyer have to bring to closing?
Yes.
Okay, so can I abbreviate that just a bit? We can look at interim interest on that one.
You can.
So the 100% exam.
Yeah.
This one, where is it? This one?
Either one. I think I'm on the first one.
Yeah. And what number is it?
96.
All right, I'm gonna go, we'll call this the back door of Learn Test Pass. But then this way I don't have to keep clicking next. So. $96.
Yes.
Okay. So, Again, by how much does the buyer have to bring to closing? I know, let's see, closing is June 17th. I know that's important. Buyer will pay interim interest on the day of closing. So interim interest is something that they owe their lender. So at settlement, it's going to show up as a debit to the buyer. And with interim interest, again, I encourage you to draw a picture. So if we're going to closing on June 17th, when will the buyer's first mortgage payment be due? June 17th, when will their first mortgage payment be due?
Wait a minute, hold on. Is it August 1st?
August 1st. Remember, with interim interest, we always skip the first. So the first is July 1st. Their first mortgage payment will be due on August 1st. Why is that important? Because it helps us determine what the buyer owes their lender for interest at settlement. Am I not still? Yeah, I'm still recording. Remember, you guys, interest is paid in arrears. Where's your rear? Your rear's behind you. Question came in, why do we skip the first? You guys remember, our principal and our interest is the same every month. So you skip the first because if you make a payment on July 1st, you don't have a full month, do you? So if you make your payment on July 1st, you'd be paying for interest for a full month of June. Is that fair? When you bought the house on June 17th, would you be happy about this? Probably not. So they skip the first. So when they make that first payment on August 1st, their principal and interest, their debt service, their interest is paying the month of July. So that's why we skip the first, because we have to have full months, because your principal and interest stays the same every single month for the life of the loan. So what interim interest is the buyer getting caught up. The lender originated the loan on June 17th. The lender wants to get paid for the rest of the month of closing. Interim interest is always the day of closing to the last day of that month. So if we go, and I already see you counting. So if we go to closing on June 17th, we count the loan originated on June 17th. Does the lender want to get paid on June 17th? Heck yeah. So we count the June 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I got 14 days left in June. I'm sorry. Yeah, June. No. What month is that? June. 14 days left in June that the buyer owes their lender at settlement. That's one piece of it, is figuring out the number of days. And that's where counting on your fingers. Isn't it really easy to look at that and see 13 days? I mean, really easy. So count it out. Back up in the problem. Let's see, they're buying the home for 180. They have an 80% loan to value ratio. So we got to find the loan amount. You guys remember our loan to value ratio. Loan to value ratio. So the value that they're purchasing it for is 180. The lender's ratio is 80%. So to find the loan amount, we take 180,000 times 80%. Oops. So I get a loan amount of $144,000. Remember what we just said? The lender only cares about the loan amount. All their figures, all of their charges are going to be based off of the loan amount. So you take the loan amount or the balance due times the interest rate. Interest rate is 5.5%. The loan amount times the interest rate. So I get annual interest, 7,920. Annual interest. How many days in pre-licensing world? How many days in a year?
360.
360. That gives me daily interest.
22, yep.
We've already decided 14 days times $22 a day. So at settlement, we're going to see a debit to the buyer for interim interest for $308. Interim interest, the day of settlement to the last day of that month.
Okay, so
All
already,
it is the borrower getting caught up on their interest payment. I'm sorry.
okay, so I already had, okay, so I put that in my column and then I put in, let's see. My 1% loan, yeah, 1% of the origination fee. The survey doesn't count because that's already paid for. The deed of preparation, the seller pays for that.
Correct. Why would the survey not count?
I thought you said that was like a prepaid. It's not
Appraisal and credit report.
appraisal. Oh, okay.
Appraisal and credit report are paid outside of closing, prepaid unless you're told otherwise. Appraisal
Okay,
and credit report.
Okay, I didn't have that in there. Okay.
So the buyer does pay for the survey?
At settlement,
Okay.
unless you're told otherwise.
I know the problem says that the seller is going to pay the taxes, property taxes. But we still have to, the buyer still has to pay their part. So it's still going to be a debit.
Property and are unpaid. Can I erase the interim interest
Yes.
stuff? You guys have that? This one's interesting. Remember what we said? This is typical. However, we're always going to do what the problem tells us. So what's the problem tell us? Taxes are 1875 are unpaid. Closing's June 17th. And this problem tells us the buyer has agreed to be responsible for the taxes the day of closing. So we always do what the problem tells us. So that means with taxes, the taxes are unpaid, which means the buyer will pay them later. So who owes whom? Debit the seller. No, I'm sorry. Buyer's going to pay him later. So the seller owes, see, this is why I got to draw pictures. Here's our settlement. Seller owns the front part of the year, buyer owns the latter part of the year, seller, buyer. Taxes have been paid. I'm sorry, taxes are unpaid, so the buyer's going to pay them later. So the seller owes the buyer. And the seller owes the buyer, in this case, for the first of the year to June 16th. That might have been what threw you off on that one.
I think it is. Okay, I'll finish.
You're absolutely right. Typically, the seller's responsible for the day of closing, but we always have to do what the problem tells us. Because anything's negotiable between buyer and seller.
Thank you.
That because if you were off, let's see, taxes are 1875 divided by 360. Were you off by about $5.21?
Well, no, more than that, because I didn't have it.
You didn't have it. That's right, the survey. But one of the places you were off, right, was $5.21 because of those days. Yeah, that's a great. You got to do what the problem tells you. See you tomorrow. What else we got? Makes me a little nervous because I never know what you guys are going to ask next. Good night. Let me know if I can help. See Tara breathing. Very important.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it a night too. Thanks for everything, Julie.
Absolutely. Let me know if I can
Okay,
help
but-
tomorrow.
I hope I don't see you on Monday. Good night, everyone.
Good night. If you can remember, we talked kind of the exception last week when we talked about profit and loss. But other than that, I think basic T-bar 101 says the part over the whole, rate or percent always goes here. So other than profit and loss, the number that goes on top is the smaller number. So for example, if you're talking about commission and sales price, which is smaller, commission or sales price? It's going to be commission. So if you think about the two numbers that you're trying to put on top, trying to put on bottom left, one's going to be smaller than the other, part over the whole. That's what T-bar 101 says. Think of it, look at the table that you're writing on right now. Think of the whole, the table as the whole. What are all those parts that make up the table? So you have like the tabletop and you have the leg and you probably have a screw somewhere, right? All those little smaller parts make up the whole table. And with the T-bar, what you're trying to find is what percentage are the parts that make up the whole? What percentage is the top? What percentage is the leg? What percentage is the screw? So it's the smaller number looking at the big picture. I said profit and loss that we talked about at the end of unit 12. The smaller number is going to be on top. And that happens when your percentage is more than 100. So if your percentage is more than 100, then the bigger number is going to be on top. So if you have a profit, if you make money, the bigger number is going to be on top. That's the only exception though. Everything else, annual taxes, assessed value, which one is smaller? Taxes, right? And remember my trick. I'm telling you, if you don't remember when do I divide and when do I multiply, just do it both ways. So if they tell you it's 3% commission and they tell you the sales price is 200,000, how much commission did you make? So 200,000 times 3%, whoops, is 6,000. And if you just, gosh, does commission go on top? Does commission go on bottom? Oh, I don't remember. Remember, Julie says the rate of percent always goes there. That's the easy one. And if you don't know when you should divide and when you should multiply, just flip those other two numbers around. Now, when you take 200,000 and divide it by 3%, I get a commission of 6,666,000. This was a bad one. Does it make sense to make a $6 million commission on the sale of a $200,000 purchase price? Unfortunately, no. So if you don't remember which number goes up, right? We would get in real estate just long enough to sell one transaction, then we retire. We're done. So it just doesn't work that way. So if you don't remember, like I said, Julie said, the rate or the percent always goes in the bottom right. If you're not sure what to do with those other two numbers, flip them around, see what you get. Play with the numbers, see what happens. The exception is when the percent is more than 100. So if you have a profit, for example, your percent is going to be more than 100. So then in that case, the bigger number would be on top, the smaller number would be on bottom. Breathe. It's nice, isn't it? Breathing feels so good. What else, guys? Faithful few.
Is the comprehensive practice exam like the test?
I mean, it's a different author, but I do think that because there's a comprehensive exam in the book, and then there's 2 in Learn, Test, Pass. So I think those are good overall. I think at this point it's practice taking test questions or tests. So that's why we give you those 3 comprehensive exams. Remember, it's an application test. So you have to apply what you've learned. Have a good night. Get a good night's sleep. At some point tomorrow, you got to put the book. At some point, you got to know that you know what you know, you know? Ebony, you have any other questions for me?
like what's the best way to remember like the different type of deeds?
I would just review them. So like if we go back in chapter 5, you know, the general warranty deed is the best deed for the buyer. Because the seller's offering these warranties. They're offering the covenants. The special warranty deed is a limited warranty deed. It's limited in the warranties and the covenants that the seller's offering the buyer.
So is it the deed kind of like for protection of the property?
The deed is ownership. It's documentation ownership. So title is the idea of ownership. Deed is the proof, the tangible proof that you can touch. So the title is the idea. How do you prove you own it though? You can't prove an idea, can you? So if the title is the idea, then the deed is the proof. The deed is what we record to protect the owner from third parties, from outside sources.
So why do they offer different type of deeds though?
Different purposes. So for example, if the bank takes a property foreclosure, they're not going to offer as many warranties. They're not going to have as many covenants. So that would be foreclosure might be when we use a special warranty deed. But in a typical seller buyer transaction, the seller's going to provide that general warranty deed.
Okay. So it's protection against the bank?
Nope, that's your deed of trust.
Oh, okay.
The deed of trust is what the lender has as collateral in the event of the borrower's default. Deed of trust, we're just fancy here in North Carolina. A deed of trust is just a mortgage.
Okay.
But we call it, because we're fancy, so we call it a deed of trust.
Okay. I don't know why they don't. All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night. Claire, you still with me? You good? Natalie, you guys? Natalie's heading out. We're good?